Can you hear me?
Hey. All right, Eric.
Hear you? Or I can see. Oh, I have my mute on, so I don't hear you. All right, we'll start the broadcast in a couple of minutes.
There's a bit of a delay, but
There should be probably at least a 5-second delay or so. If that makes sense.
there's no case you accidentally curse.
No, just because things have to get from electrons have to flow from one place to another. You can set it up with a 30-second or 60-second delay if you want to bleep out your curses and stuff. Okay.
Actually, it's only about 3 seconds. Well, did you hook up with some of the bird geeks? Hey, Eric. Good to see you. How are you?
Hey.
How's it going?
Hey, how are you? Good. How about you? Good. Hey.
How are you?
There are 2 viewers.
Well, actually, yeah. Oh.
That might be yours.
Share screen. There we go.
Monday, I'm here, you guys all be happy. What would be like? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Fishing after Obama.
Problem over sitting in the corner of the girl.
I'm flying on the wall. Right, same time. That a hint? It's a cushion seat.
So Greg, can you hear stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can hear
Okay, you're
Kirby,
pranking me now.
Marvin,
Okay.
everybody that's going through that mic over there.
All right, great. Wow, things are working.
Yeah, it's working. Good. It's always better when it works, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I think no, I don't think they're ready to go back. He's gonna pull the video. I guess the buses have video cameras. They'll pull the video. Which is good, because that way it protects you from some emergency call. Really? Yeah. Well, he's actually very appreciative. I wish he'd follow up. I know it's kind of edgy. And he's a friend second time. I think the reaction. Of course, people still have to work more than one. Of course, yeah, I know, it really set the rest of the drive to work. Yeah. And they're really cool. You can drive something that big like that. And you don't run around.
Should we get started?
You don't drive around it. Yeah, and buses have that.
You're gonna give us your layout.
Everything. Really.
Sure, I'll talk about that a little bit.
And one.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. Welcome. So today we're here to talk about free open source software, and we're broadcasting on YouTube right now, so don't say anything stupid or the whole world could hear about it. We're using YouTube Live to broadcast this presentation, and I'll be using a couple of different laptop computers with different operating systems. Most likely we'll leave YouTube at the end of that because I haven't figured out how to connect to multiple devices at the same time on the YouTube. Is that enough introduction, Craig? Disclaimer, please don't try to install any software on the department-issued server or devices without approval of the IT staff. And the department doesn't endorse any of the software identified in this presentation. Let's see. So what do you do when your laptop is old and slow and infected with viruses? It's what can you do if you need complicated edits to a photo but don't have the software installed on your computer to do it? What if you want to distribute something to people that have no money? Hopefully I'll answer these questions in the presentation. For now, that's just a teaser. Here's the outline of what I'll be talking about. What is FOSS? Why use it? Operating systems and the software that can be used on cross-platform, whether you're using free operating systems or not. Free and open source software is computer software that can be classified as both free and open source. So you can use it for whatever you want to. You can redistribute it however you want to, and according to Wikipedia, people are involved to improve the design of the software. What is free? There's two aspects of free. Free is in free donuts. In other words, you don't have to pay for them. And free is in freedom. In other words, you can modify it and redistribute it. Free and open source software is both of those. Not that it's a donut. The software components there's basically three types of software components. There's the operating system itself, and then the desktop environment, the graphical interface between the operating system and you, and then there's the other computer programs that you run. Now, all those are computer programs, but the applications that you actually use are a little bit different from the operating system itself. Here are some examples of devices that use Linux. How many people here use Linux? And, or at least I meant how many know you use Linux? Android phones are Linux, self-driving cars, Large Hadron Collider. If your refrigerator, most of our refrigerators probably don't have Linux. They probably just some hardware. But if it's a more advanced refrigerator, it's probably operating on Linux. More people use Linux than Windows.
Wow.
Not necessarily on desktops, but more people use Android phones than use Windows on desktops. So it's not like, even though you haven't heard of Linux, perhaps, it's very commonly used, even though it's not advertised. Oh, and I was going to mention that iOS is Unix, which is based on well, Linux is based on Unix, so the iOS for all your Apple devices is closely related to Linux. It's obviously not free and open source. Let's see. Google, Amazon, Wikipedia, U.S. Post Office, all of these organizations use Linux on desktop quite a bit. And there's a link in the notes to a whole great list of organizations that use Linux on their desktops. A lot of films with high digital effects use Linux because using Linux allows them to modify the operating system to have the best performance of their graphical software. Windows and Mac don't allow companies to modify their own software or to modify the operating system. Advantage of Linux, it's designed for better security. In other words, you don't just click on some link on the web and suddenly it's installed everything on your computer. You have to have some approval in most cases to do that. It can get viruses, but it doesn't. Customizable. Why?
Why is that? Is it because people intentionally putting viruses out there would rather design them to hit Microsoft or other operating systems?
One factor is that's one factor, but another is the design itself. That it'll be more compartmentalized and there's more. And like I mentioned about, you have to actually agree to install something before it's just installed. It gets quick security patches. You don't have to wait until Wednesday evening, and it can speed up your computer. That doesn't mean that all Linux distributions are faster than Windows is, but if you have an old computer, there's Linux distributions designed to be fast on older computers. And it won't reboot without asking. How many of you have been running along a 12-hour model and the computer reboots in the middle of that and suddenly you have to start all over? Let's see. Oh, and it's free. Sort of like the library and public radio, it's free. Reasons not to use Linux. There's too many choices. There's countless distributions that you can choose from and lots of different applications. There are a few programs that won't run on Linux, like Microsoft Access and the modeling software GUI that we use. You may have already tied your operations too closely to other systems to use it. You can dual boot into Linux and Windows if you have just a few programs that you want to use for Windows. So some invalid reasons not to use free open source software are you're afraid that to change. Well, whatever you're using is going to change anyway. If you like to spend money, you can spend it somewhere else. It's okay. You still get to spend money. You get this free stuff. And it's dangerous. But paying for something doesn't make it safer than getting something for free. Just because you're bribing someone to release your computer doesn't mean that that was a money well spent. Speaking of ransomware or something. So here's sort of a history of Unix and Linux. So there was once upon a time in 1969 an unnamed operating system that developed into Unix, and that then branched into other Unix varieties, and then Minix came along, and Linux, which borrowed from that. Let's see, the MacOS is way down here on that. So just to give a little history of what we're talking about. Where did my presentation go? Oops. Next slide. Next slide. There we go. Oops. There's a slight delay on the flipping of slides. So here's some examples of free operating systems. With Linux, some popular systems are Ubuntu, Linux Mint, OpenSUSE, Android, of course, Chrome OS, and then there's the some BSD operating systems, which are the more closely descended from Unix. Berkeley Software Distribution, if I remember correctly. Just to give you an idea of the countless varieties of Linux that are available. So there's the Debian-based. There's Slackware. And yeah, I don't recommend trying them all. And but try a few, yeah. So there's several different websites that review Linux distributions that are suggested for beginners. And there's also, there's many sorts of specialized Linux, such as Um, there's hearing impaired and visual impaired Linux that are designed for those purposes, and there's scientific distributions. There's a type of Ubuntu called Ubuntu Studio, which has all of the graphical and sound software packages built in. One place I saw said to recommend the one that you use if you're already a Linux user. So I use Ubuntu on my system, and that is a good one. And the reason they say that is because if you're recommending something to a friend, you're probably going to be providing a little bit of support to them, and therefore it helps to know what you can support them better if you already use the system.
So if you're using one, does that prevent you from running programs or any programs that basically run on it?
Let's see.
You know, if it runs on one, it will run on all pretty much.
I haven't really gotten to the open source software yet, but there's this one. Where did my slide go? Oh, I think this was my slide. No, this was just, what was that? Okay, now back to the presentation. And yeah, this presentation is available online, so you can refer to all the notes. Here's a list of Linux distros that are recommended for beginners. Right now we're looking, this distribution is Ubuntu that I'm presenting on at the moment, and in a little while I'll switch over to Chrome operating system. And then perhaps if I have time, I'll go over to Solus, which is another one, which is open on the other computer over here. One good thing about Linux is you can usually try it before you install it. You can put a CD or DVD or USB stick and boot up your Windows computer in Linux and use the full featured Linux distribution with all the software packaged in it, and it'll probably be a little bit slower than if it was installed directly on your computer, but it can give you a good idea of whether you would like it or not. You can also, I mentioned earlier, dual boot with Windows, so you have two operating systems installed on your computer, and when you boot up, you choose which one to boot into. Let's see. Advantages, other than free, you get free upgrades for life. And developers of free open source software have more incentive to keep file formats readable. If you have a proprietary software, and then you might have a new format that your Word document or whatever has to be in, your paperclip, that if that format changes, then people have to upgrade to your new greater software to keep using your proprietary software. But if you have open source software, then you don't make any more money by making people upgrade. see, here's some examples of free open source software programs. You already use some of them: Firefox, Chrome, WordPress. Some of you may have 7-zip installed, which is actually not necessarily the Linux version. GIMP is a wonderful alternative to Photoshop. And KeePass mentioned here is a password keeper. Some common tasks: if you want to edit audio, Audacity is the full-featured program. Video editing, I've used Blender a little bit. It doesn't actually have a save button, so you have to use a keyboard shortcut to save the file. So I'm not sure if I actually recommend that, but you can edit videos or do 3D graphics and create your own animations with that. I haven't used Cinelara or OpenShot, but there's Bracero and K3B for burning CDs and DVDs. Good Publishing has Scribus, and there's a link below to all sorts of software that lists software that's commonly known and good alternatives. And there's another list.
So is this PowerPoint going to be on for all, or does it have some more?
It'll be on Google Docs, so anyone with the link can access it. How do you know which applications are safe? Well, the Linux distributions usually have their own software repositories. So they have a whole bunch of programs that have been compiled, and you can usually install them with the graphical software manager. That basically a little store that you search for a type of software that you want, read the reviews, and click a button, and it installs it on your computer for free. There's also some software doesn't. Not all software is going to be in those repositories. So there might be other methods. You might have to go to a Google site to download Google Chrome if you didn't want to use the free Chromium distribution or browser that's based on that. So now I'm going to go through a couple of example tasks: edit photos, do some math, transfer files, edit PDF. So if you want to edit pictures, I'm going to do a real quick demonstration of GIMP first, and then I'll do a Pixlr editor demonstration. GIMP is a basically can do anything that Photoshop can do, except for it's free. So, I have GIMP already open here. Move this away. So let's say I want these cables. I don't like these cables that are in this picture. I want them to disappear. So I'm gonna. Those cables are just really ugly. So I'm gonna take the healing tool. Yeah, let's get rid of this. There's got way too much color, so let's desaturate it. I think I'll use the luminosity method. There, now we have the flying tramway. Just to give you an idea of it can do what you need it to do.
Eric, I'm waiting for the follow-up presentation. What is true in follow-up.
What is true in photography? Nothing. I don't know, everything. I mean, photography, from the moment you pick up the camera, you're editing things. So you're looking for the ideal light and the contrast and the composition. You don't just point it and say, oh, look, there might be something there. Let's push the button. Okay. So I promised the Pixlr editor. I'm going to go ahead and do that on this computer. I was thinking about switching, but I had trouble getting connected. So
Thanks.
sure.
Very interesting.
Okay. I'm going to close GIMP. I'm not going to save my changes, even though we all want tramways to fly.
So Eric, you're saying that something like this GIMP program can be used with either a Linux-based system like Android or with Windows?
Yeah, you can download a version of GIMP for Windows or for Mac OS. And let's see.
What graphics are you using? 3D.
Let's see. So that's Compiz, COMPIZ. It's a graphic program that's built into Linux devices. I can't get it on Windows, so you can do fun things like draw on the screen with fire. And let's see what it's
And
like.
if you're running both operating systems, you have how much more memory to do?
The memory, well, basically you're talking about hard drive space. And that depends a lot. It doesn't take up a whole lot of space for just the operating system as far as modern computers goes. But if you have tons of files, then, well, the files can be shared between both operating systems. Like, let's say you have tons of pictures or videos. Those can be accessed by either operating system when whichever one you're using. And I don't know a whole lot about virtual devices. So you can basically have a virtual machine inside of another one. But that probably takes up more memory. Do you guys know about virtual drives?
VirtualBox. They basically chop some of your, or separate some of the resources inside your computer and put another computer inside the computer. That you're receiving virtualization. So you have to look at that. If you're able to run that kind of OS, CPU processors usually run clock for support virtualization. They can change to a better BIOS, but like an i5 or an i7.
So I've found my image that I want to edit in my Google Drive. Right click on it and open with Pixlr Editor. Thought I was already connected to the internet, but oops. So this wasn't something that I found during the. Let's try that again. Open with Pixlr Editor. Okay, so well, first let me take this image 180 degrees because the wizard wasn't really upside down. Now I don't really like this crack in the wood here, so I'm going to use the clone tool. Remove the crack. Probably let's get a bigger brush. That's better. Okay, so yeah, just to show that you can do some complex stuff with this web-based photo editor. What's this tool? Oh, eraser. So I've only used this a few times. Just full of stuff you can do without installing anything on your computer from any operating system.
Probably we can find a little bit of a dinosaur.
Certainly, yeah. Just depends on how much time you want to take. Okay. Let's see. So now I'm going to switch over to Google Chrome on the screen, but I'm not going to do that on YouTube. So I'll just point the camera at the other screen, perhaps. Or you can. Maybe I should just end the video portion. I don't know if anyone's actually watching. Okay. Hi, 4 people. You're probably one of the those 4 people. There we go. Stop sharing. Let's see. So do you see any? What do you see over there, Greg?
Yeah, so it's back
Okay.
to it.
So let's see. There's a control panel here.
So Eric, why did you have a couple of those like marked as being for at home and the Pixlr marked for being at work?
Let's see. So the GIMP you can install on your computer at home, but you can't install it on work unless you get IT approval. So if you have a 5-minute edit on some photo, then you might just want to go to the browser-based editor,
Okay.
and because it would take a lot longer than that to install it.
Since we're not installing it, it would be okay to use the Pixlr one at work.
I would believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Here we go. I think this is the Google Hangout. Nope. I lost my... live controller. Sorry, I don't really use the Google Hangouts at all. So that's sort of new to me. I wanted to show you that you can do absolutely everything, but I'm not doing a good job by not knowing everything. Let me try the live control room again. I guess you'll just have to imagine if you're at home. I'm switching now. This also disconnected automatically earlier. Oh, yeah, that would help if I push the HDMI button instead of the video conference button. Oops. Oh, sorry. Back to the beginning. So I've got a new folder here, and going to create a new Google Sheet. Oh, we won't be here long enough to worry about that. Switched my mouse and keyboard from one computer to the next by unplugging the little thingy. And now, yeah. Now let's do some math. Anyone have any special math you want to do?
Well, we could take a 13 horsepower engine and, let's see, 0.5, grams per horsepower hour. And we have
What was that?
0.5 grams per horsepower hour. And we need to get an emission factor pounds per hour, so where are we at with our distance? 500 or 453 grams per hour.
Is that right? Did I do that right? Yeah, so basically it's the same as Excel. There's a few minor differences in the way things copy and paste and a little bit of formatting, but it works the same way.
They contain the same formulas.
Yeah.
You want to get like square root or minimum or.
If this is greater than 1, 3, else 6. So yeah, there's not much missing.
This is down there. Google.
That's in Google Docs.
Okay.
So this is a web-based, a browser-based spreadsheet program.
So how did they, without copying Excel from Microsoft, right? Make it their own thing, like what nuances would they change to?
Well, I don't know what the history of Excel is, whether the idea of spreadsheet originated from Microsoft or whether ways to put things in rows and columns and do math with them is just sort of obvious. In other words, non-patentable or trademarkable or.
I think patents expire after 7 years. And before that, there was before it fell, wasn't there one before 3?
Yeah.
I'm really dating myself now.
Oh, and I mean, that before there were any.
Yeah.
Once there were spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Paper.
Paper and pencil. Yeah.
Is there does this Google Docs have a version of PowerPoint?
Oh yeah, that's what this presentation has been
Oh,
created in. See, is it Sheets or? Yes, presentations. Sheets is, this is Sheets. But yeah, I think it's the.
and I'm asking because often when you buy an inexpensive suite like a home office, PowerPoint is the one thing that doesn't come with it.
Oh yeah. Well, and you can use LibreOffice instead of LibreOffice. If you can install on your computer at home, it's a full Office suite containing everything. Except for Access. It does have a database, but it's not. Access has some. Access only runs on Windows. It won't run on Mac OS or Linux. But it does have a database included with it.
If you create files in Libre and send it to somebody, do they have to have this FOSS?
LibreOffice can save files as documents, as Word documents, or in open document format.
So you're just changing the extension that you can.
Well, you can't just change the extension in your file manager. You have to save it as.
It has a metadata that has an header in it that specifies what application you're using to open it. So one of the primary benefits that I found with LibreOffice or using any of the products that are open source is if you open say you have someone that opened an Excel spreadsheet and saved it as a docx, a lot of times it will respect that, but the formulas won't get translated in the Word document. So what I'll have to do is I'll open it with Libre. It doesn't care what the header is. And then it says, oh, it's spreadsheet, or it says, what do you want to do now? Then you save it as an Excel spreadsheet again, so people can read it. And a lot of times, people put up their, docx files or their Excel files, and they get fixed a tool like this for free, which is very, very beneficial.
And LibreOffice is LIBRE?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Libre is free in Spanish.
See.
That actually comes free installed on the black.
Yeah.
But you have free installed already on the distro that you're talking about.
Oh, okay.
It comes, yeah.
Shows up on there.
It comes freely already installed on the installation disk in most Linux and many Linux distributions.
And if it's not there, you just install it.
Yeah.
Install LibreOffice.
So now I'm gonna up to questions. Are there any questions from the people on the phone? Can we hear the people on the phone?
Yeah, anyone that's still listening, sure.
All right. And if there's no,
I've got a question.
okay.
So if you've got 2 or 3 old laptops and you have earlier versions, or their PCs, earlier versions of Windows,
Mm-hmm.
can you install Linux in one of those and have it on an external hard drive and operate it that way? Or is it going to just be totally cluttered up with old operating?
It depends on what you want to do and how full the computer was earlier. If it's a real old computer, then hopefully you backed up data that you need, your
Let's say you
photos
just want to
and
get rid of
stuff.
all the files.
You
You
can,
don't care what's on there.
let's see, if it's real old, then recommend is just installing Linux on it and having it overwrite everything. Because that way you're not already cluttered up with obsolete software that isn't supported by Microsoft anymore.
Clutter. Did you erase the hard drive? Just erase everything and then
Let's see. So that you can either fast format it or slow format it. If you're going to be keeping it, then slow formatting just overwrites the beginning of the disk where it tells where everything is. It doesn't actually delete all the there until it needs to write to those sections of the hard drive. If you're going to give away the computer to someone else, then or donate it or something, then you want to do the slow overwrite where it actually overwrites everything on the hard drive, which can take a while, but that you know that your data isn't going to be stolen by someone that goes back and figures out what used to be there.
You keep in mind that I would say the best bet would be if you're going to donate a hard drive or a computer with a hard drive, I would probably have it. If you have any pictures or anything like personal on there, like your tax information, social security stuff, I would actually just keep the hard drive and destroy it. Because there's open source software available to anybody that can recover and move your hard drive. I feel get a drill or police for private taxes somewhere. Right, that's right.
That's what we did with the old sand, and just drilled them all and sent them to recycling.
Yes.
So then you just get another hard drive.
Yeah, but if you're gonna use the same hard drive, you're fine.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're gonna be using, but like if, when you are getting rid of a device, if you're getting rid of any computer, it's not necessarily, people think, well, I reformatted it, and including, for instance, people, even help desk will give us a machine, and they say the user has data on it, can you recover it? Well, the way it works is you have your disk drive, which contains all your data, and then you say, oh, I'm gonna load a new OS on it. Well, they could reload it, but even though it says I formatted this back in NTFS, it's still, in other words, the zero part of your drive says you can write over this now. It doesn't mean it's gone, it's still there, but you can write over it. So if you have a tool that reads whatever's still there that says you can write over it, it'll grab that data. You know, a lot of times it won't give it the same name you gave it when you had it, like a picture name, the name of its phone, and you'll be able to restore that file. That's how we do it with forensics. That's why when you do a wipe, you either destroy the drive, or you do a DOD, which writes zeros to the entire drive, then it writes another couple letters, and then does a random. So no matter what's there, it's gone. You know, just like I had an incident where it was an attorney who was doing something that she shouldn't have been doing, and what she did it smart. She went and got the Word docs, and she left them the same name, just wiped the content of the file, and left it the same name. So it kept the same name, just put it on another level where it didn't have no data in it. It was still there with the same name. So, you know, just if you know how to get rid of it, that's how some people do it. So what you want to do is, if you want to wipe it, destroy it, or do a DOD wipe on it. There's lots of tools out there, including, like you said, live CDs. They're distros of Linux that you can boot that will allow you to wipe a drive, or even to clone a drive. There's one called CloneZilla if you need to make a duplicate of one of the drives you currently have, or you're updating it. You know,
Because, like you said, you need several passes, because sometimes it could take 48, 72 hours to finish. That would be the way to go.
It is much slower than the nail, but
Right.
and if it writes 3 or 5 times over.
Right. This also includes SD cards for any of your camera stuff, even used phones. I mean, there's been people that brought me some cell phones that I've had to restore, and the data on it is even from the person who had it before it got, when they go ahead and fix them at the company and they bring them back. And I got one time, all these pictures of a soldier in Iraq. And I was like, look, this is some soldier's phone. Did you take these? I have no idea who that guy is. So that data is still in those, they're NANds, it's the same way, it all has the same functionality.
Like on a refurbished?
Refurb, yeah, it was a refurb.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you do the same thing, either get rid of your SD cards if you're gonna sell a phone, or wipe the copy.
Take pictures of your local cameras, come to your company. Or your old phone. Paranoid is a good thing to have whenever you have technology. You never know or how they're going to get it or what. And think of all the types of pictures that we take. Some people take some Facebook pictures that are really
I don't even ask, I just toss this and here you go.
But nonetheless, it's always good to be mindful of what we're doing with our technology. I don't care about that.
As far as Linux, at home, we've been using it probably since 2006. It's evolved and it's gotten it's gotten much simpler from before when we used to have to compile things out the kernel. It was too technical. It was considered like a nerd operating system. You have to be a nerd to know that stuff. Now it's not like that. You can get it, and there's been people that installed it for and they didn't even know they were running Linux. They really do presentations with it. So it's an awesome operating system. My kids, that's all they use. I don't think we've had a virus at the house on the computer since 2006, around since we got it. So wherever you go, you're okay. You're protected from whatever applications or Trojans or any type of malware that's available. They target Windows. People that use Windows, the majority of the world use Windows. And what are we doing? We're checking our bank accounts and we're doing everything we can. And because Microsoft has so many different corporations and companies, there's all these information pieces that other people, leak out and they say, oh, here's vulnerability. That information because Microsoft, look at WannaCry. And that was from our own government.
That was Microsoft.
So that's the ransomware. Yeah, ransomware.
Yeah.
And that was from the shadow brokers hack that happened to the NSA. They ended up using all the information. Now they created an exploit that was meant to be used to protect us as we get protected. But there'll be a lot more coming out. There's actually 4 more ransomware coming out that you ought to be aware of. And the best way to protect yourself against them is to update your computers. Make sure that your Windows computer is typically updated because, like I said, that's where most of these attacks are targeted to. Linux computers, they're not immune to attack. If you're using a Google Chrome browser, Firefox browser, there are still several different browser attacks. If you click on something, it's called JavaScript, and you run it in any browser. There's several different languages that are run without your knowledge and do stuff. So it's really important that you're considerate of where you're clicking, even though you're running Linux, because it's always related to your computer. So it just takes your little bit of lack of paying attention, and then somebody's got pulled it running. I've seen it. Mac is the same way too. Mac is not vulnerable or not unvulnerable to attack. Everything is vulnerable to getting an attack, no matter what.
They have the ability of hosting the data. You'll see a lot of people ask, well, why does my Mac need antivirus, or why do I need antivirus on a Linux box? Well, a lot of times you're protecting the people out there that that are friends that have Windows boxes that you're going to share the data with, because all they got to do is get that file. Linux doesn't care, Mac doesn't care. The box, it does something weird to the machine and never did to yours. So that's why you didn't have antivirus. If you see schools, community college, I was getting a lot of people that were getting a particular type of Trojan, and I'm like,
what I found consistent with all of them was they were going to a server called Jack at the community college. Well, it had malware on it that was hosting the, if it's a Linux server, it's like, whatever, here you go, you can use it. Because it doesn't care, it just gives you the data you asked for. And with that data was attached to malware, Trojans or whatever they were, and people out there with Windows boxes were getting it, so it was affecting them. So I told them, just run your scans and make sure that you check your stuff, because sometimes, when you go look for travel agents and stuff, there's a lot of rerouters you find in there, like the pop-ups. If you have any types of ad blockers, you can load if you're in Firefox or Chrome, throw ad blocker on there. You know, a lot of that makes a difference.
Is a good one.
Yeah, and they're free.
Plugin.
Yeah, they're free.
Browser plugins, yeah, they work fantastic. You can look at them too, and you can see the account number go up as you visit certain pages. Be like, hey, this one's top 20 pop-ups.
So that goes back to my Excel question. When I was taking my stats class at community college, they insisted that we use the Excel. They didn't offer a free one, you know what I mean? So I had to get a subscription for that Excel. But what you just said makes sense. If they don't want us to get on that Google papers,
Sheets.
sheets, okay. A reason why they were pushing for.
I think it's because
Excel?
of what they support. We can't promote something that our help desk doesn't support. So they more than likely, because there's a lot of people that do still use it. You know, if you have someone out there, you're not going to know the difference if I sent you a document that I need a LibreOffice compared to if I did it.
Yeah, oh, I just wish I didn't known about that.
Because I tell everybody, how sophisticated do you need to work? I mean, now they're getting so, they're running out of ideas that they say, let's put it on the cloud and let's make people on the moon have access to it. It's like, you don't need that. And then just for like homes, you don't need a phone that goes 50 meters underwater if you live in New Mexico. You know, what are you worried about? You just want to type a letter and send it out.
How secure are these smartphones?
Depends on what you're
You know,
doing.
if you're on the train and you're using some.
Well, you know, if you,
If you're on the train, I've shut off my wireless.
yeah.
They don't have Wi-Fi on the train anyway.
So, well, I shut it off anyway.
Or your Bluetooth.
Physically see somebody hacking somebody else by sitting next to them.
Oh, really?
Just don't let yourself be broadcastable. You know, you don't want to be broadcasting, hey, my phone's here, my pocket, and then you have some scanner that's sniffing packets, and hey, let's see if this person has an exploit that I can utilize.
Scanners, packets, export that I can do.
There are people that run
The LibreOffice
tools that go and look for people that have phones that don't have updates. And all these tools are all Linux based, so you know these are people that are using the tools that work. Hackers aren't writing scripts for Windows. Hey, they're using Linux and Unix. ESD, you know, they use that.
A little bit, but
When you say updates, are you talking about the ones that Android or iOS sends you?
You see Apple doing a lot of security updates. A lot of times it's for optimization, and a lot of times it's for a security hole that was, you know, found that they found a certain exploit. Because you see a lot of groups that there's a lot of foreign groups that go in there and they try to hack certain. An example would be for the iPhone. We have a group called Pangu, and there's a couple out there that go in there and they look for exploits. And it's not necessarily to go in there and find out, you know, what the people are doing, but people can use it for it maliciously. They use that for people to have ability to do certain things, and it's called jailbreaking. That's what they do with an iOS device. And then you have all these neat features, and then you know, Apple sees that you have all these features and people like it, and they incorporate that with their new OS. That's usually how it happens.
You have the control of your device that you paid on $1,000. Right now, if you take your phone, so my phone, there's another $6,000 on my phone. I didn't know. The weird thing is that there's one called the Wi-Fi phone. So it's called download video. These are well-known things, though, that are all over the internet that could be a lot. You might find them. That's noted the big thing about the NSA was spying on us. Right? The 600 million iPhones that have that Wi-Fi phone module installed on them. I didn't know that until I started looking into this stuff. Like I said, I'm paranoid type. Linux, on the other hand, or jailbreaking, it gives you complete control over your device all over again. As does Linux. Windows does it. Windows is like your purchase pilot, like, the way I see Windows is the Windows is your life. Like, everything that you do, that's
So if you guys, if you consider Linux, there's a lot of new things you can do, that you can do anything Windows can do. The only thing is
Way
that
more.
iTunes is the one thing that people, I say, do you guys have iTunes? They'll say, yeah, okay, well, then there's gonna be a thing there, so we go back to the Google, like Eric said.
Yeah.
Where you have the ability to do both. Some people use the Google just for, iTunes and TurboTax. And then the rest, they do their banking and everything with Linux. They go to YouTube, they download, they do whatever they do using their Linux OS.
or virtual.
Yeah, you can virtualize it, but you need, a more beefier machine. Like, you could get really old machines that run great. They don't really have a high footprint. Yeah, Puppy Dog there's so many out there. I mean, there's tons. But the popular one is Ubuntu, which is based off Debian, and another one is Mint, because Mint pretty much comes packaged with everything, so people don't have to know all the commands to go and load all the Todd Lockman. He's the guard group over here. He actually uses CentOS and all that does more around the
Enterprise level.
yeah.
You
You see, you
servers.
guys have heard of Red Hat? See, they say we need to have that because we pay for it. Just because you pay for something doesn't mean it's better. Because Debian also has a paid feature. Just whatever the boss at the CIO's office would do, it says this is what we're doing. That's what we do. Because there is, I wish they would universalize or standardize on a way to load software into all the distros to have an app yet. Just have some kind of people that's easy. If you get me on a Linux box that's running a Fedora or CentOS or Linux, a Red Hat, and you're like, what? How do I look for this again? I have to use RPM or Yum, or we get so used to app getting stuff. Apps to get to grab our data, our applications. But if you get into it, and there's plenty of resources out there that you know, all you gotta do is type whatever you have, whatever area you're in or whatever, and someone says, oh, this is what I did, solve, and do what they say in this time. Yeah, it's totally worth checking out before you guys get rid of any of your old machines. Or, if you guys have kids that get viruses out there, and that's an awesome tool to have to learn music for them. But most kids are out there on, YouTube or doing the social media, they're using it with their, Bluetooth or whichever version of anything. You don't have to worry about them infecting the rest of your machines at home. I have a whole thing that I've done for Raspberry Pi. Aces come out with a new team board that I've been working. Media, a lot of people use to stream media. A lot of people are using to have their own data centers for multimedia. The one thing I tell them about backup your pictures, especially your family, videos, any of that stuff that you it's very important that is not replaceable. You can download Ozzy Osbourne again anytime you want if your house burned down, but you can't find that picture of grandma or whatever. You gotta save that stuff. That's mostly those are usually the people they neglect and they just assume it's gonna be okay until the drive starts to click and they're like, oh no.
We get on a hard drive, we get on a DVD or a Bluetooth drive or a Blu-ray drive.
Archive, the important stuff, archive
At
it.
least the old school version.
Because even today's card has they just die.
Do you have shortcuts pinned on your browsers? Your work computer and your home computer? Sure. Does that make you any more susceptible to people getting access to bank accounts, things like that?
If you're gonna leave all your credentials inside of your link, the way some people do, like, hey, this is my bank. That way they don't.
But if you don't do that, it's like a shortcut.
Yeah, don't ever say, how sometimes you're prompted, would you like to
Right.
pass your phone?
No,
I don't say no, that's easy to get to. There's a whole database. You just go to the tab and just make your voice.
That's what we call the DNS poisoning, is what that's called. They poison your DNS records to look legit, and it's calling to another mothership somewhere where there's a guy recording all the data that's coming through. But not in the middle kind of thing. It's just there watching what you're doing.
Another reason not to get on the free Wi-Fi.
Oh, you mean like at an airport or something?
Anywhere, McDonald's. Something that you're not aware of. If you
Don't
see on
say
it, you see, yeah.
Just don't do.
A lot of paid versions on
I use that for one, all right?
Office 5, Red, there's some things I don't know. Yeah,
And they're making a lot more, there's a lot more VPN companies coming out because the new bills are just asking that the ISPs are able to sell your information now. Now people, I don't want them to sell my information. And ask me, do you have your Smith card? They already know what you're buying. Yeah, that's how it's all about marketing. Who's making money on it?
Well, you're having fun there.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for coming. I'm going to stop the broadcast now.